Operation Return Home Alert for Shanaira Selden, who they believe could be in danger. Tonight, Wave 3 News reporter Caitlin Rust met with Selden's mother while she was out looking for her daughter after almost a week of searching.
Through the wind and the rain, Shameka sells more searches until the sun goes down.
It is my mission to find her.
If anything, the weather keeps her going.
It's been cold, it's been raining. She doesn't know anybody.
All around Wyandotte Park, you'll see a face Shameka hasn't seen since last Saturday.
I actually saw her on Saturday via FaceTime. She got a new hijab and she wanted to show it to me. Very happy, didn't have any issues. Then on Sunday, we spoke between 11:30 and 11:45.
Monday morning, Shameka got a call from her daughter's phone, but it wasn't Shanaira Selden, rather someone looking for her.
By noon, she hadn't returned. I got the police, went over to the house where she was last seen, and realized that something was wrong.
In the home she shared with her boyfriend and a roommate, Shanaira left her cell phone, hijab, and prayer beads, as well as her son Aiden's picture and teddy bear. The 4-year-old died in a car accident in 2018.
Can't eat. I can't sleep. Something is wrong.
No money, no car, no friends or family in the area. Shameka can't help but picture the worst.
I add up the fact that she left the things that are important behind. I add up the fact that she hasn't contacted me. She would never put her family through this on purpose. And then I suspect foul play again.
But they'll keep looking for her, leaving no stone unturned.
You look in places that you never want to look, like in dumpsters and behind buildings, and I just want to find her.
Shanaira might be wearing a plum-collared Old Navy pea coat, a pink and black Betsy Johnson backpack, as well as orange, gray, and black Nike Air Max shoes. She's just under 5'1" and around 90 pounds with black ear-length curly hair and brown eyes. Her mother has put out a $2,000 reward for anyone with any information. Reporting live in studio, Caitlin Rust, Wave 3 News.
Hey cousins, welcome back to my channel. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on that post notification bells. Make sure you put all so you can get all the notifications every time I post. Cousins, today we have a story on Shanaira Selden. Have you guys heard about this situation? It's so crazy that things like this happen so often that we now don't even hear about all the stories of these situations. So the story just seems like a typical story of a young lady who went missing and her mom is in search of her. But there's so much more to this story that her mom actually unpacks. And the fact that the police can't even see everything in front of them. I'm not a police officer and I can literally see what's going on here. Like, there is just too much evidence. And the fact that no one has done anything, how is this possible? Rest in peace to Shanaira. Rest in peace to Aiden. Miss Shameka, my heart goes out to you and your family. I know this entire situation is very hard to deal with. And I can only imagine as a mom how you feel having to deal with this situation and knowing that the police, the people that are supposed to protect and serve the community, they're not even doing anything to help you with your daughter or with this situation. The person who all of the evidence is pointing at is literally walking free. Well, free for this crime. He's in and out of jail for other things, but he's free walking for this crime. So, cousins, we're going to unpack this whole situation. We're going to get into this and we're going to listen to Shameka go over all of the details of Shanaira's case. Basically, Shameka is the detective here. Her mom is the detective. Cousins, the fact that this happened years ago, I believe in 2019, and no one, well, not no one, a lot of people have not heard about this story. I feel like this needs to be out to the masses, okay? Everybody needs to know about the story. Everybody needs to know about Shanaira. Everybody needs to know her name. Justice for Shanaira.
April of 2018, Shanaira and Aiden were traveling to North Carolina, where we're from Kentucky, where we live,
to go to her husband's relative's funeral. He had an aunt that passed away that was very close to Aiden and Shanaira, and she was trying to go to that funeral. While in going through West Virginia, the West Virginia Turnpike, she said that she lost control of her vehicle, and she crashed, and Aiden died on impact. He didn't suffer at all. Aiden was not my only grandchild. I have 2 beautiful granddaughters, but he was my only grandson. Shanaira, of course, was like any other grieving mom, but she had a family with her to help her through it. So after Aiden died, Shanaira did her best to pick up the pieces because he was her only child. So fast forward in November of the same year, a young man that I had taken under my wing many years before asked could he come and stay with us because he was didn't want to go back to where he had come from. He told me that he felt like he was going to go back into bad habits, run into old people, so he wanted to come out to the country where we lived. This young man had been in our family for years. He called me mom, and I obliged. I said, yeah, you can come and stay with us. That was in November. I want to say around January of 2019, him and Shanaira began a relationship. Now, let me tell you, I was not okay with this relationship at all. I felt like Shanaira was only allowing this relationship because she was still very much in mourning. And I gave a lot of pushback. What I didn't want to happen is me to give so much pushback that I end up pushing her out, because she fell for him really fast and really hard. And I know that it's because she was in a very, very vulnerable space. So I actually had to deal with that as best as I could. I'd never been in that situation before. I didn't know what to do. And as I said, he'd been in our family for so long, and no one ever gave him a second look. In fact, they didn't really like him a whole lot. But during that time, she did. So they started this relationship. That she was not screaming out, crying anymore. I noticed that she was not sad anymore. When I had to go back to work, because I took quite a bit of time off to be with her, she had some companionship, and I was really grateful for that because I just wanted her to be okay. So we can fast forward, I guess, maybe 3 months or so, and I recognize that this young man is using drugs. He gave my son and my other daughter gave me reports about things that he was doing while I was at work. And I had gotten to the point where I said, you know what? You can't be here anymore. You have to leave. And I had to figure out a way to continue to support my daughter, because I know that if he left, she was going to leave too. I asked him to take a drug test, and he refused. And I am a therapist, and I work mainly in addiction, and I know that he was using drugs. I had no suspicion that Shanaira was using drugs, but I didn't know how long it would be before she would, because she was very influenced by him. So after he said that he would not take a drug test, he said, you know what, I'm just going to go. So I actually did not put him out. He chose to leave. And of course, she left with him. So this was around, I want to say April of 2019. And he'd been staying with us for about 6 months by this time. She leaves, and then she ends up coming back home, keeps going back and forth, because this dude does not have the pot nor the window. And she knows that she can always come back home because I'm mama and that's my baby. And there are days that she kind of was really ambivalent, because she knew that he was not the person for her, but she had really developed a love for him. And there was a part of her that told me that she felt really sorry for him because he just didn't have anybody. I'd given up on him. His mom had given up on him years before, and he was just kind of out here not having anyone. And she had a heart of gold. She didn't want that to happen to him. So I said, okay, we can try to figure this thing out, and I can, maybe help you guys find a place to live and help them find. They move out and they move into this house with a roommate, and they're doing okay. I know that he is still using drugs. Shanaira spends a lot of time at home. She comes home often. We see each other every day. We talk every day if we're not FaceTiming. We go to lunch every day because I just had to keep an eye on my baby. And things just started to get really weird with him. She wanted to be away more than she wanted to be with him, but she was still very much torn. So all I could do was show up every day and hope that she would change her mind. So one day she called me. Her best friend was having a gender reveal party, and she called me and asked me to come and pick her up. And when I picked her up, there was definitely something across me, and she says, "Can you come get me now?" And I was like, "Right now?" She's like, "Yeah, can you come get me right now?" And I was like, is he coming? And she was like, "No, it's just me." So my wife and my other 2 grandchildren and I were out eating in Louisville. So we just went, we picked her up, and at first I looked at her and thought that she was tired, and then I recognized very quickly that she was high, and it was very difficult to watch because I know that it wasn't marijuana. So I asked her, had she taken anything? And she said that she had smoked marijuana, I want to say the night before, with this young man and one of his friends. And that no, she did not take anything other than that. But I knew that there was more in her system than marijuana. Hospital, and they said that she had meth in her system. And I was there when they told her that there was meth in her system. And I could see how she was, she looked very hurt, and she looked like, that's like someone had betrayed her. She had that look on her face. And so what ended up happening, long story short, is that she had to go to a local mental hospital because she needed to, for one, she needed to detox. And she was so small, she weighed like just at 100 pounds, that it was giving her very, very adverse effects. And I am a rather safe than sorry kind of person. So I took her to the hospital, and she stayed there for, so this is where the plot twists a little bit. She was laying on the couch one day, and she had her head in my lap, and I was rubbing her hair, and she said, I just feel like such a fool. And I was like, well, no, baby, there's no need for you to feel like a fool. Not everybody's cut from the same cloth. I'm going to always be here for you, mom stuff. And she said, I don't like, and she named her boyfriend at the time, his friend. And I said, well, he gives me bad vibes too, but why don't you like him, baby? And she said, because they keep trying to make me do stuff. And I was like, you mean like drugs? And she was like, no. And I said, what kind of stuff, baby? And she said, sexual stuff. They keep trying to make me do sexual stuff. And I said, because I didn't want to alarm her, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to. You know that. It says that they keep trying to make her do stuff, sexual stuff. And I told her that she didn't have to do anything with anybody. So, of course, my radar is already up, but it goes up even more now because I know shit is just not right. Something is just really amiss over at that house. Fast forward, Shanaira gets enrolled back in school. She wants to be a nurse. She is starting to get her credit cleaned up. Like, she's doing pretty good. She is, I think she's still talking to him every now and then, but she's not having the conversations that she had been having. But that didn't last long. So one day after discovering that he was trying to talk her into coming back, I called him and I was like, Why are you asking her to come back? You don't want her there. I don't believe that you are sitting there waiting on her. I don't believe that you are not getting high. I don't believe any of that. I think that you are full of shit, and my kid is not going to come back there. She said to me, Mama, he is sober. He sounds sober, falling into the trap that a lot of us, or a lot of people have fallen into before. And I said, Shanaira, if he's sober, it's because he doesn't have any money. He is not sober. And so she said, I just need you to trust me, that I will do the right thing and that I will be able to protect myself. And I'm just like, you couldn't protect yourself before because, you know, I'm Mama Bear, right? But she said that she was fine. So on October 11th of 2019, my son calls me. I'm at a friend's house and he said, Shanaira's gone. And I said, where is she? And he said, somebody came and picked her up. So I checked my cameras and saw that she'd gotten into a car, and I was calling her and she wasn't answering. So she finally answered and I said, where are you going? And she said, I'm going back to the house, his house. And I was like, Shanaira, please don't. I begged her. And she was like, you have to trust me. I'm going to be fine. I'm going to call you the moment that I get there. I love you so very much. It's going to be just fine. And so she remains true to her word. She calls me the moment that she gets there, and I talk to her for about an hour. And without pressing or prying too much, I let her know that I didn't feel good about this, that this is not a good situation for her to be in. So what I did is I saw her every day. I don't care what it was. Hey, let's have lunch. Hey, let's go to the grocery store. We talked and saw each other, even if I had to just ride by her house and see her face, right? I needed to make sure she was okay. So I saw her every single day. One day he was getting in the car with his friend and he didn't even acknowledge me. He didn't even say hi. And he looked like he was high. And I said, Shanaira, he's getting high. I don't think that he is. No, he's not. And she's clearly not under the influence of anything. And then so a check for him came to my house. And then when I gave it to her to give to him, I knew that he was definitely going to be using then. And that is when, again, things start to get really strong. At this point, she's very naive. She is... I think she knows that he's using drugs, but she just doesn't want to believe it. And she doesn't want to leave him by himself. She had a very intense loyalty to him. And so I try to spend as much time with her as I can. As I said, we saw each other every day. We were on the phone. If she wasn't answering, I was panicking. So she would call me back like, hey, chill out. I'm good. And then she contacted me that Friday and said, hey, can we meet this weekend? Maybe go to dinner. I want to talk to you. And I said, sure, absolutely. So the meeting between the two of us never happened. I got really ill that weekend, and she FaceTimed me on that Saturday to show me her new jab. And I know that he was standing close to her. I never saw him, but I knew that his presence was there. And so we talked about her jab and how beautiful she looked, because she was just an absolutely stunning girl. And that is the last time I talked to her. I got a text message on Sunday, which was odd because we normally talk or FaceTime. And she asked me what I was doing, what I was up to, was I feeling better, things along that line. And we chatted just a little bit. And that was the last communication that I had gotten from her. And that was on the 20th of our 21st. I get a text message from her phone. It was on a Monday. I was doing a group, and the text message said, hey, I'm sorry to bother you, but is Shanaira with you? And I said, what? So instant dread just came across me. So I had an intern in the group room with me. So she took over. I walked out. I called Shanaira's phone and he answered it. And I said, "What do you mean? Is she not with you?" And his exact words were, just to be honest, we haven't been vibing like that. So she asked me for some space. So I said, "Well, where were you?" He said, "I stayed the night at my mom's house." And when I got back this morning, and this was around, it was 10:08 to be exact. When I got home this morning, she wasn't here. So I said, "Well, could she have gone for a walk?" And he said, "Well, yeah, sometimes she walks up the road," which is not true. I know my kid. So I said, "Group is done at 12. And if she's not back by the time I get there, I'm coming, and I'm not coming alone." And he said, "Well, I'm going to go look for her." So we hung up the phone. I hung up. I immediately called his mom and I said, "Did your son?" I said, "When is the last time you saw Shanaira and your son?" And she said, "I saw them on Saturday." So I said, "Well, what about just your son?" And she said, "Saturday. So you didn't see?" So if you saw the both of them on Saturday, does that mean that you didn't see him last night? And she said, "No." So I said, "He didn't stay with you last night?" She said, "No. I hadn't seen them since Saturday." So I said, "Okay." So I let her know what was going on, and I said to her, "Shanaira's not at home. It is unlike her to just not be there. I have group until 12. If she has not surfaced, I am going to the house." And 12 o'clock came and she had not surfaced and felt very sick to my stomach. It just didn't seem right. It didn't seem like her. So I went to the house and I called the police. So when I got to the house, he was high. And I said to him, "Give me my daughter's phone." So he gave me her phone, and I told him the police are on the way. And he said, "I have a warrant." And I said, "You're talking about she's missing. You worried about a warrant? I need for you to stay here, and I need for you to talk to police, because from what you're saying, you're the last one that's seen her." So the police come, they talk to me, they talk to him, and they tell me that he just doesn't seem like he is being honest. So they give me the number to the missing persons detective, and they have, they feel like I needed to contact him immediately. So that is what I did. While I was waiting for him to call me, I canvassed her neighborhood and looked for her myself. Like, where on earth could she be? Okay, so the police left around 2 o'clock, and I, like I said, I went and I canvassed. I called in my friends and said, "Hey, listen, something is wrong. I can't find Shanaira." Jonathan said, that's his name, said that he had not seen her since last night. She left her cell phone at home. She left her everything, her ID, her wallet, everything was left at home. And I need some help. So all of my friends gathered, and we went out and we did a quick canvas and we looked for her. And then so we ended up going to Jonathan's friend's house because that's where he was. And they all came out on the porch and they were just like, "We don't know where she is. We promise we hadn't seen her." And the friend said he hadn't seen her since Saturday. He said that, you know, she was not in good spirits when she was over there, and that she was sad and rocking. So I knew from the moment that he said that it was bullshit. And I felt like they were trying to set something up to put her in a light where she was in some kind of a crisis. So stayed there and argued with them for about an hour about where in the hell my baby was, myself and my friends. And then we went and we looked into areas more. If anyone who is familiar or from the area, we sprang into action immediately and got flyers put out and tried to figure out where she was, because we knew at this point that something was absolutely not right. While we were looking for her, I start really combing through her phone, and I noticed that he told me that he had left home on Sunday afternoon at 3:08. And he very specifically said 3:08. He said, because I know that's what time the bus comes. Well, the funny thing is, at 3:08, he left her at home, but he is calling her and texting her incessantly, and there's no response. It's left unread. Messages were unopened and phone calls were unanswered, and I really didn't understand that. So I asked him, were you arguing? Because why would you leave home and immediately call her and her not answer? And he said, no, we weren't arguing, and I'm not sure why. She just chose not to answer me at that moment. So again, it just didn't seem right. While looking through her phone, I also discovered that I could go to switch user, and when I hit switch user, it went to his messages, because he had used her phone at one point, and he lied about his timeline. He told me that he got home about 8 o'clock that morning. He got something to eat, laid down. She wasn't there. He told me that her phone was there and it was left on the charger, and that he called me at 10 o'clock. Well, looking at the messages to his friend, there's no way that he was home at 8 o'clock, because at 9:30, 30 minutes before he even called me, he was still on the bus, according to his messages to his friend. I also noticed in her phone that there was a message exchange between the two of them early that morning. It just said, I love you, from her, and he said, I love you too. And so I asked, well, where were you when she was sending you these messages that Sunday morning? And he said, well, I was in the bathroom and she was laying across the bed. He was like, we do it all the time. But then I was looking at the messages and I didn't see a pattern of that at all. So that made me suspicious as well. Also, I've been into their home, and if you laid across the bed, you could look across the hall into the bathroom. So it just didn't seem right to me. There was some discrepancies on her having a key, her not having a key. I mean, he just lied about everything. And so I'm a firm believer that you're telling the truth. I'm a firm believer that you're telling the truth, and you don't have to lie. If you tell the truth, there's nothing left for you to lie about. And that was, it was evident that he was not being forthcoming or honest. While I had her phone looking in his messages. At this point, he had no idea that I had gone into his messages. And I noticed that he had a sexual encounter. I only saw one that was documented through text with his friend, the guy whose house we'd gone to, who said that he could not, that he didn't know it. Guy that was his friend. I had gone through her phone, and I saw where the two of them had sexual encounter. One that was actually on that Sunday before. I never let him know that I saw that. I just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of played it off and let the detective know, for no reason, apparently. Let him know everything that was happening. We're gonna fast forward to the second day. We decided to do a search party for her. On day 2, my oldest daughter, who is all of my children are very, very close to each other, and she said to me, I have felt Shanaira wherever she was in this world. I've always felt her, even if we were not close to each other. And I don't feel her anymore. So she's not here. She even began to mourn a little bit starting at day 2. Day 2 is when I actually also had mediums reaching out to me, all of them saying the same thing. I was never really big on mediums. I always thought that they were all kind of fake and hokey, but every last one of them said the exact same thing about Shanaira, things that I did not want to accept because I was holding out hope. It should also be noted that on day 2, I pulled up back in the house because we were going to do the search party, and Jonathan was leaving the house as I was pulling up, and he was putting something in he was putting a bag in the trunk with some stuff where he was leaving, and I thought my son couldn't even come and look with us because I was afraid that Shanaira was going to come home and nobody was going to be there for her. And I said, how can he just leave? He had never been back. How can he just leave? And she may come home. And my wife said, it's because he knows that she's not coming back. So I found that very, very strange. He never posted any flyers on his Facebook page. He never joined the search party. He never did anything to help at all. Days 3, 4, 5, we were on the news. We were putting out flyers. We were looking everywhere for her. From the morgues. I don't know if you've ever had to call the morgue to see if you had a loved one there, but it is one of the most gut-wrenching things that you'd ever have to do. We were looking in the park that was nearby. We were looking at dumpsters. We were looking everywhere. And it's like she disappeared from the face of the earth without a trace. Couldn't find her. We couldn't find her backpack. We couldn't find her pea coat. Now, when she disappeared, it was 70 degrees and 70 plus degrees. And she left with a pea coat on, according to him, which did not make sense to me. And the reason that it did not make sense to me is because that girl did not put on a coat when it was cold outside. I bought her the pea coat. I had to make her wear it when it was cold. And she took it with her whenever she had whenever she got some of her things from the house. And so I was like, none of her stuff is surfacing, right? Nothing. The backpack that did not have her wallet in it because there was, her ID and stuff was found in her drawer. Her hijab was still at the house. Her pea coat was missing and a pair of Air Max tennis shoes. Now, if you knew Shanaira at all, you know that none of that made any sense at all. And then so she also left her phone. So we are still looking, searching, and it's just not looking good at all. So LMPD is doing nothing. They are pretending to listen. When I tell you that I was very thorough in everything that I was presenting to them, they pretended that they were investigating, but they actually were not. So my friends and I were Shanaira's PIs. We got together in groups. We went through her phone records. We went through messages. We deciphered conversations. We did that, just trying to figure out where on earth could she be. The following week was terrible. I was not able to eat, couldn't sleep, and I just felt like I had been dealt a really, really shitty hand. Was not going to give up. I felt like I just had to keep going and keep pushing and keep looking. And so I felt that there's no way that this would have happened to our family twice. I remember standing in my bedroom talking to my wife saying, there's no way God's going to do this to me again. I just lost Aiden last year, and that almost killed me. I will not survive if something has happened to Shanaira. And again, my oldest daughter, who is very connected to her, was grieving and saying, she's not here. She's not here. But I still looked. We got out every day and we looked and we looked and we looked, and no trace. So Sunday rolls around and we have another news person come out and meet with me and meet with her team, the people who were looking for her. I was just still trying to hold out a little bit of hope. And so later on that night, my wife and myself and my granddaughters were sitting down eating dinner, and I got a news flash on my phone saying that there was a body that was found in the river in Indiana, and I knew it was her. I knew it was her. I couldn't even finish my dinner because my spirit told me that it was Shanaira. I had my granddaughters ride in the car with my wife because we had taken 2 separate cars. And I called my sister and I told her that there was a body that was found. And at this point, it hadn't been identified as male or female, but I knew. And I remember driving from Louisville to Radcliffe, where I was living at the time, down Dixie Highway, just screaming. All I could do was scream. I screamed so much that I was almost hoarse by the time that I got home. The next morning comes, my daughter and I spring into action, trying to figure out if that was indeed Shanaira that they found in the river, and we just were not getting any information because we kept calling the Louisville coroner, and she was actually found in Indiana, so we didn't get right information. I'm still saying, okay, I'm hopeful, maybe it's not her. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Andrea Knable, but her sister's detective told her that he actually took a peep at the body, and it wasn't Shanaira or her sister. But we can tell now that that wasn't the truth. So we had to wait that Monday. And I did another news thing on that Monday, and while I was out putting out flyers, talking to the news person, Jonathan walks up pretending to be very concerned. Yeah. We purposely took the news person into the neighborhood of his friend. I wanted him to see us. I wanted him to know that we were looking for her. And I want him to see that we were doing everything that we could to find her, and he was doing nothing. And it just so happens that he ends up walking up. He sent me a text message and said, "Can you please call me? I heard that there was a body found in the river, and I'm freaking out." Those were his exact words. Now, mind you, hadn't heard anything from him since she'd gone missing. All those days, he actually told one of my friends that he went to a place that they frequented to get her hijab and put a flyer out. And we later found out he wasn't even over there. He lied about even looking for her. Again, get through Monday. Tuesday rolls around. I teach at a college in Indiana, and so I went to work that day. And I had reached out to the detective because someone had called me with something crazy, and he said, "Why don't you come in and meet with me today?" And I was like, "Why?" I knew what he wanted, but he tried to play it off, and I guess maybe spare my feelings, and was like, "Well, we haven't met face to face," because we hadn't at this point. I talked to everybody except him face to face, And I just want to tell you where we are with Shanaira's case. So I went up there later on that day. My legs felt like lead walking into that building. I didn't go alone. One of my friends went with me, and him, Detective Bill Clark, and another detective come in with a folder, and they sit me down, and basically they don't waste any time, and they say, we are 98% sure that the body that we found in the river is Shanaira's. And I felt like someone took a brick and just kept punching me in my gut. I couldn't breathe. And I didn't even cry at that moment. I just lost my breath. When he confirmed all of my fears, I said, you said 98% sure. He said the coroner's going to call me back. They are looking at some other things just to be certain. And before he got his sentence out, the coroner called and confirmed that it was Shanaira. So I said, what happened to her? They tried to give me some geography about where she was. And then he said, we don't suspect any foul play. And we think that she killed herself. Now, I didn't accept that, but I didn't challenge that. That was the furthest thing from my mind, honestly. I had just gotten the most devastating news that I'd ever gotten. And so I just sat with it for a moment. I had the devastating task of contacting everybody who was looking for Shanaira, contacting my family, calling her brother and her sister, her cousins, her best friend, and telling them that she was dead. I felt like I'd just been there because we had just gone through this with Aiden. So when I was talking to my daughter, she said, you don't believe she killed herself, do you? And I was like, no, I don't. Especially with all of the evidence that had led up to this point. Now, let me be clear in saying that if I felt that Shanaira killed herself, I would be the mother on the front lines talking about suicide awareness. This is not one of these things that I'm like, I can't accept it. It just isn't the truth. I had several conversations with him after Shanaira was identified, and it was basically, bruh, what happened to my kid? I want to know what happened to my baby. And he gave me 100 reasons. He blamed it on his friend. He blamed it on his friend's homegirl. He blamed it on some kind of triangle that he was in with them, saying that they were jealous of Shanaira because she was beautiful and that people wanted him. And he blamed it on everybody. Not one time did he say, well, I think she killed herself because. He continued to lie to me about what happened to her. And it just wasn't sitting well because nobody was doing anything. It's almost as if they said, all right, we got that one off of our desk. Let's move on to the next one. And they stopped any progress at all. And then there was a turn. I was trying to wrap up some of Shanaira's affairs, so I needed to get her death certificate, which had not been issued. So I called Indiana, I called the funeral home, and they said to me, well, she's still under investigation. And I said, really? They had said that the medical examiner, who was different from the coroner, had initially ruled it suicide by drowning. But the coroner, it didn't sit well with her. So she did undetermined. Well, I reached out to the coroner, who is the most phenomenal woman ever right now to this day. And she said, well, why don't you just look at the autopsy report? Because I had questions. And I said, I never got it. So she sent it to me. Looking at her autopsy report, there were a few things that stuck out to me. The first thing is that it said that she took frequent walks by the river. She'd been there 10 days. No, she didn't. And if she took frequent walks by the river, we would have looked at the river. It said that she had multiple suicide attempts, which was untrue. Whenever she looked back and saw that her son had been killed in the car accident, she tried to run into traffic. She was in shock, but she never had any suicide attempts. And the third one was that she was depressed. She wasn't depressed, she was sad. Just like I'm going to be sad probably for the rest of my life. I am missing my kid. She was sad. And it also had some stuff about her body. There was also the fact that she was found naked. The only thing that she had on her was a hair tie in the back of her head for her ponytail. She was naked. She had dilated orifices in her vaginal and anal cavities, which could be explained by some natural things after death, but it could have been explained by other things, but they did no rape kit. She had congestion in her neck, and nobody was able to explain that to me until a year after she'd been dead. And they said that it could have come from blood buildup from her being in the water, or it could have been somebody choking her. But nobody took the time to even investigate that. So I contacted the coroner and I said, where did this come from? Her taking frequent walks by the river, her having multiple suicide attempts, her being depressed. Who told y'all that? Because it certainly wasn't me, because that wasn't true. And so she said, let me do some investigating. Who said what? Taking frequent walks by the river was in this state document, but nobody knows where it came from. Nobody. Now, this is one of the things that was their deciding factor about ruling it a suicide. Nobody knows who said it. The information about her having suicide attempts and being depressed, where do you think that came from? It wasn't me. It was Jonathan. So I'm saying, are you serious? Are you serious? Again, nobody's doing nothing. Shanaira's case goes cold for a moment. And then my city erupted into devastation with the Breonna Taylor case. And so I am at home still being Colombo, but this other stuff is at the forefront, and I allow it to be because it's so important, right? And then so I write a letter, and the letter was the turning point because it basically catalogs everything that I've said here, along with some other things that I'm sure I've forgotten. And I sent it to all of the agencies that had their hand or should have had their hand in this. I'm going to be reading to you the letter that actually restarted Shanaira's investigation. This letter was initially sent to the Indiana State Police, the Louisville Metro Police Department, and the New Albany Police Department. This is the letter that Indiana State Police picked up and has been working with me on. To date, I have not received a response from LMPD. Nothing. Not at all. I did receive a phone call from New Albany Police Department, and Indiana State Police are the ones that reopened the investigation. Before I heard from them, I did send something to Department of Natural Resources, but it was handed over to ISP. Some things in this letter have changed. So this was last year that I sent this letter, and new things have been found out since then. So whereas there will not be any inaccuracies, there'd be new information that you know about that's not here in this letter, if that makes sense. I'm not going to be able to do this in one part. It's going to have to be more than one. although I don't know how many because it is a few pages. All right. Dear sirs and madams, I am writing you, urging you to begin the investigation into the death of my daughter, Shanaira Selden. There's not been anything done that gives us any kind of peace or closure. In the following paragraphs, I will outline for you the truth about the days leading up to the discovery of my daughter's body. I will outline the inconsistency that has come with her investigation and expose the lack of effort, unprofessionalism, and even lies on the part of either or all of you. As you are reading my findings, I implore you to take a moment and pretend that this is your daughter, your granddaughter, your wife, your sister. On October 21st, 2019, I received a text message from my daughter's phone asking me about her whereabouts. Calling her phone, I got her boyfriend on the other end telling me, and I am using exact words, Shanaira is missing. Listening to the voice on the other end of the phone, my motherly instincts immediately felt that something was wrong. For one, my 25-year-old daughter would not just go missing. Secondly, how could someone who had just gotten home, 10 in the morning, by his admission, make that kind of determination? I immediately told her boyfriend that if she had not returned by the time I was done with group at noon, that I was showing up there and I was not coming alone. Given the nature of this letter, you know that she did not return. I arrived at the house on, and I give the address, the home that she shared with her boyfriend and a male roommate in Louisville. The bedroom that she shared with her boyfriend did not look out of the ordinary. Nothing was missing. Nothing was disheveled. I asked her boyfriend what did she take with her, and he proceeded to tell me that her pea coat, along with a pair of Air Max tennis shoes, and her backpack. I would like to inform you that it was 72 degrees that day, 73 degrees the day before. I had to make my daughter wear a coat during cold weather. She certainly was not going to wear one during warm temperature. Her backpack had no identification because I found it in a drawer later that afternoon. She left important memorabilia honoring her son, Aiden, who had perished in a car accident 18 months prior. Her cell phone was there, her brand new hijab that she had purchased just a couple days before, all just left behind. When the officers arrived, they told me that her boyfriend was being strange. I know this because even in my distress, I had the emotional wherewithal to record the entire exchange. It was 51 minutes long. After I gave the report, I was given the phone number of Detective Bill Clark. He would be helping me find my daughter. For 8 days, we looked for Shanaira. Right up until the hour before I was to meet with the detectives, we looked everywhere. Morgues, parks, garbage cans, abandoned houses. All the places that a mother never wants to look for her child. We looked so hard for my baby. While we were looking, I was investigating. I found that there had been major discrepancies in the narratives of the people who saw her last. There were discrepancies about timelines, whereabouts, and the last times that she'd been seen. As I am discovering this, I am reporting all of it to the detectives. I even printed it all out, highlighted, and tabbed the things that I found. I hand-delivered it to a detective at 721 West Ormsby. Bill Clark was out, so I gave it to his partner. I gave them her cell phone and the records that I had access to, all the while hoping, praying, and searching. My daughter's lifeless, naked body was found the following Sunday, October 27, 2019. She was positively identified through dental records on Tuesday, October 29th. As I sat in a room at 721 West Ormsby, I listened with a broken, barely beating heart as the detective told me that my daughter was found, identified, and already deemed a suicide. At that moment, adding things up was not my first thought. My first thought was telling her sisters and her only brother. notifying her grandmother, best friend, and favorite cousin, gathering the ladies and gentlemen that spent the past 8 days looking for my baby, and telling them that they need look no more, for she had been found. In the days to come, my spirit was jarred. The numbness of the initial shock had begun to subside, and I was actually thinking again. I had so many questions that people just could not, and even now cannot seem to answer. How did she get to New Albany? She didn't drive. Was it possible for her to float from Louisville to Indiana? If so, what was her entry points? I started to realize that my questions were valid, and I absolutely would not accept that she committed suicide. Now, please understand, this is not because of the nature of suicide. In fact, suicide would be easier for me to accept. I could not accept it because there were unanswered questions. On November 6th, we had a beautiful service for my baby girl. I put the questions to side for the sake of everyone else's heart, but then I kept looking, investigating, searching for clarity, trying to find something definitive. I'd been in sporadic conversation with Stephanie House, the now former Deputy Chief Coroner of Floyd County, Indiana. She changed Shanaira's manner of death from suicide to undetermined. She shared that she was not too comfortable with that ruling because there were no signs of that. She also said that Shanaira's death was ruled a drowning as a diagnosis of exclusion. On December 9, 2019, I received her autopsy report. Just before then is when I realized that she'd been found naked. Her toxicology report showed that she had nothing in her system other than caffeine. There was ethanol alcohol content, but it was explained that as a common thing when there has been decomposition. The disturbing part of her autopsy report were 3 findings under the heading Circumstances of Death. It said that she felt depressed since the death of her son. That wasn't the truth. She was sad but not depressed. It also said that she had a history of past suicide attempts. Stephanie explained to me that someone mentioned the scars on her wrist. Those scars came from 2 things. Once, she was doing her little sister's hair and the flat irons fell on her wrist and her leg, leaving scars. The second time was when she got into the accident with Aiden. I actually had to have surgery on one of her hands and wrists from lacerations. That was from that accident. That is where those scars came from. The third thing that blows me away is that 3, the decedent frequently goes on walks around the Ohio River. She never walked around the river. In fact, she was back at that address in Louisville for only 10 days. When I asked for the nature of these findings, everyone was unsure. The information about her being depressed reportedly came from her boyfriend and others. Not one person can tell me where that narrative about her taking walks from the river came from. According to her report, in attendance of her autopsy were, and I name everybody that was there, of all of the people in her autopsy, not one could identify the origin of this false narrative. It is evident that this narrative is as important as her autopsy. This is the narrative that assisted in making an uninformed determination. However it came about, whomever falsely made it a part of her story thwarted the chance of a deserved proper investigation. Just recently, I received a new autopsy report. Her manner of death had been changed from suicide to undetermined. Her cause of death has been changed from asphyxia due to drowning to also undetermined. The narrative regarding the river has been removed. From my understanding, those things were changed in December of 2019 after I alerted their medical examiner. They were never given to me. I had to reach out to the medical examiner, and that is when he informed me that, and I quote, the report was amended following further scene investigation. Yet, there has been no investigation into her death. Let's recap. A 25-year-old black woman disappeared without a trace in Louisville, Kentucky, taking nothing with her but a backpack containing no ID and a pea coat in 73-degree weather. She leaves her cell phone, her deceased son's memorabilia, and her hijab, all the things that she loves and cherishes. Her lifeless naked body was pulled from the Ohio River near Silver Creek in New Albany, Indiana, a 16-mile, 5-hour walk from her home. She had no vehicle. It was determined that she committed suicide. It was only discovered, the only evidence determined that that was false. She has unexplained congestion in her neck, no drugs in her system, and her clothes have never been recovered. The detective in Indiana says, you should have gotten an investigation. And I'm sorry that she didn't. Now, mind you, my baby's been cremated by then. It had been well over a year. She was, her cell phone was still working, but his cell phone, he had gotten rid of it. Like, so much has been lost between now and then. But they are assuring me that they're working on it. The coroner believes the way that I do. And so they changed her diagnosis, her death diagnosis, to undetermined and undetermined. I also found out that the water in her lungs were not conducive to someone who drowned. It was conducive to someone who'd been in the water for 6 days. How do you miss that? How do you miss that? Did they think that I wasn't going to do my own investigation? Did they think that I didn't care about my kid? She's somebody's baby. She's my baby. So right now, that's where we are. In Shanaira's investigation, they recently, well, not recently, about 2 months ago, they picked up her cell phone for a second time. I don't think that they actually did anything with it the first time. And this is LMPD, not Indiana State Police. Indiana State Police actually took it over there for forensics. Haven't heard anything back from it yet. The detective is really good about reaching out to me and trying to, and letting me know that he's still very much working on her investigation. I want to close out all 5,000 of these videos by saying thank you for your patience and thank you for listening, because it is very important for me to get our story out. I tell it every time I can. And I want you to also know that I'm not naive at all. I know things happen. It's my wife in the background snoring. I know that things happen, but I also know that my baby did not kill herself. I know she didn't. Every part of my mom being tells me that she didn't. I feel like if he did not do it, he knows who did. It always comes back to me, the conversation that she had to me about them wanting her to do sexual things. I feel that somehow it all ties.
Do you guys
together.
really believe
I don't know,
that what
but
the
I can
cops
speak
said
for
about
justice.
Shanaira really happened? I really feel like the police department, the Indiana ISP, everybody failed this family. This family has been through enough already with what happened with the Shanaira's son, and then what happened with Shanaira right after that. It's like they can't catch a break. And again, my heart goes out to them. My condolences for everybody involved. And I truly, truly hope that somebody picks this case up and justice comes for Shanaira, because there's no way possible that Jonathan B. had nothing to do with this. There's just no way. I have some more clips for you guys that Miss Shameka put together. So please, if you want to show some support, go check her out on TikTok. I'm going to have her name all over this video so you guys can go to the direct source. But she needs our support. Please, justice for Shanaira. This cannot end this way. There's no way possible that this man can walk free, or his friends. If he didn't do it, he knows somebody who did it, or he was involved in it. It's just too many things pointing toward this particular person. Cousins, let me know how you guys feel about the injustice. Do you feel like Jonathan had something to do with it as well? Do you think somebody else had something to do with it? Do you really believe what the cops are saying? Like, it's just no way. There's no way. I know she had the situation with her son, but There's just no way. Everything is pointing toward, come on now. This entire story just breaks my heart for this family. Please unpack your thoughts in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.
I think that we are all aware that for obvious reasons, October is my least favorite month. And fall, which used to be my favorite time of year, is not. So starting around mid-September, I start to slow down. My spirit slows down. Like, I just get different, if you will. And so I don't post as much. And here lately, I haven't been posting as much because my thought process was that, okay, so you're not offering anything super pertinent, right? That is what people want to hear. And then I realized yesterday how wrong that is. My wife and my granddaughter and I were at the outlets in Simpsonville, and I met a young lady who recognized me from my TikToks, and she was so very sweet, and she told me that she followed me and she wants me to get justice for my baby, and she recognized the kindness in me, which really made me feel good. She said something that she probably doesn't even realize how much of an impact was to me. She just said, very simply, keep fighting for your baby. And that sat with me. It sat with me all night. It sat with me today. And what I kept hearing is, keep going, sis. So Tina from Indianapolis, I want you to know that I am continuing. And the things that I felt like I didn't need to post, I'm posting them anyway. So the video that's attached here is an actual audio of TJ, who is Shanaira's ex-husband / friend and Aiden's dad, talking to Marcellus. This was in 2021, and I find it very interesting. And you might find it interesting too. I'll post all that I have. I don't care who does or doesn't like it. So yeah, Tina from Indianapolis, I appreciate you.
I wish I knew the chronological order like I knew at that time, because I had that shit placed out where it seemed something was fishy from my line of the story. But I don't freaking remember it like that.
Right. So what?
But the detective, no, I told that man from A to B what I knew and the gaps in between.
So what seemed off? What seemed off about him Sunday or the next day when he came over?
Because he came over like hysterically crying about some shit, and he was whispering to my best friend about it, but it wasn't about them. So I was confused. You feel me right there? And then I don't know. It's just something's off, bro. Something's off. Get with the detective. Hear my statement. You feel me? Because I was close to that thing. I just didn't know what he did from a certain time to another certain time. It's like a gap, and like from like 3 in the morning to like 6 in the morning, and then he sends her a text message in the same house. It's some awkward shit. But I don't know, bro. I don't know. I wrecked my head around it. It wrecked it around it. My spirit said he did it when I first heard about it. With maybe she had a basement from the neighbor. Like, I've wrapped my head around that scenario so many times and could not figure it out.
You said what about the neighbor?
The white guy. I was thinking that when I first heard, something happened or she was missing, I immediately was like, what about the neighbor, the roommate downstairs? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was already trying to like put 2 and 2 together, but it just things just wasn't adding up.
And did you tell the detectives that you thought it won't adding up?
I told the detectives everything. It wasn't one thing I did not tell them. Because I was against him. I didn't trust John.
Why not? If that's your boy.
If it's my boy, whether he's my boy or not, love is love, bro. I'm not that type of person. My boy wrong, he wrong. Wrong is wrong.
When was
I'm not around no killers. I'm not a street person. I'm not in the streets. I don't look for trouble. You know? So if I happen to have a friend that is in trouble, most of the time I'm distance from those type of friends. I don't judge them.
Right.
But that ain't my lifestyle. So if he had that around me, you messed yourself up because he knows I'm not with trouble.
Right,
So,
and Shanaira was the sweetest person. If they was going through anything, she would have just left.
Yeah.
And when was the last time you talked to him?
It's been about a year, man. It's been about a year or so. Just because he kept being like, he just was acting untrustworthy. Shit kept on coming up missing out of my home. I kept getting robbed all of a sudden. He would have these moments where he would just like spaz out because he was doing them drugs. So he would think he would be paranoid, like someone's like looking for him or trying to kill him and shit like that. And I was like, bro, you can't be around me. You know, like I do too much with like helping people, so I can't have you around me when I'm trying to help people. You know, it's not going to help me. So we just kind of like went our separate ways.
Grew apart, just separated yourself from it.
And I hear little things every now and then that he's, running in and out of rehab and stuff like that. So I'm thinking he's still kind of going through drugs really bad. But as far as me knowing his number, Facebook name, all that, it was just on me. It's not who I am.
So,
it's something to me. I ain't never been so close to that.
Would you mind talking to the new detectives? Because her case just got reopened, so everybody's about to get called.
If they have to talk to me, cool. But that's something I don't want to. I don't want to be in that. I just got into my career of a job, and I just don't need that type of energy right now. To throw me out there. And if I have to do that, so be it.
You don't have to. But if you
have to do. But they have. My statement is solid and it's good info from that moment. You know what I'm saying? So, I drop that and want me to kind of like just reiterate maybe what I had said to get a better understanding for today.
Yes, but like you don't have to. But like if you cared for Shanaira like you said you did, I would want to find.
So I cared for anyone that was a good person. She was a good girl.
She was a great woman. She was a great woman.
I was trying to tell her to be her own person. Through him because I knew she loved him so much. She just kind of was like blindsided about things she needed to just decide for herself. But love is a thing. It's a crazy thing, and she would do things that she might not want to do with him.
Such as
get on the bus and go here or go there, or you know what I mean. You could just tell that she did things that sometimes she did not want to do.
Because she wasn't a bus girl.
Love.
Y'all got 5 cars out here. But she was in with him.
So, I just really hate that because that's what I know that I'm so close to death before.
Well, I have twice.
Yeah, you lost a child, man. I can only imagine. Then the mother of your child leaves a year or so after that.
No, Aiden left. Shanaira was killed. Aiden left. Shanaira was killed. There's a difference. Big difference.
I never just, regardless, you lost 2 people that meant the world to you. So.
Yeah, but we finna get some answers because I'm not leaving Radcliffe or Louisville until I get some answers.
I totally understand. I totally understand completely how you feel.
Well, if you hear from him, or if you know a friend, do you have his mom's Facebook or anything? What's his mother's name?
Mom's name on Facebook, Kay Ballinger.
Okay.
But that's it. I really don't affiliate with his, people like that.
Well, I'm going to reach out to his mom and see if his mom is willing to give another statement. If I have any more questions, I'll call you back.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Okay. So I'm back with more audio that I have in my phone. I'm going to try my best to turn this up as loudly as I can so that you can hear parts of the conversation. Mind you, there is no way that I can share all of this because I have hours of audio. But this is very interesting. Okay, hold on.
He really went out and got him a girlfriend. But when I leave him, when I separate, go separate ways, he gets sad.
He said.
He gets sad. We've had a conversation. He and I have both had a conversation about this recently. Right before that.
Why does he get sad?
That's what we was talking about. And I asked him, he said, I don't know. It's like, we're supposed to be together, but we're not supposed to be together. Like, how's that supposed to work? Like, when I leave you, I get sad, like real sad. I'd rather kick with you than my own dude or my girl. And
So you think that he like has a thing for you?
yes, and I told you, I think that house got a thing for me, including her other son. Like, bro, listen.
You think that could that be a reason to try to hurt Nene?
Yes, and that's what I'm getting at. That's why I asked you to just let me get it out first.
So that piece of audio is part of a 2-hour and 47-minute conversation that I had with Jonathan. In it, he tells me that Marcellus has a crush on him and that Marcellus gets really upset whenever he leaves him and he can't figure out why. And I said, do you think that he wants you? And he's like, yes. And I said, do you think that that's a reason to hurt Shanaira? And he says, yes. He goes on to say that everyone who was in the house, and when I say the house, I'm not talking about their house. I'm talking about Marcellus and his roommates. Everyone in that house had a crush on him. Is that the truth? I don't know. Probably not. But that just goes to show the level of back and forth that I have had from the beginning. I comb through this audio periodically, and I swear I always find something new every time. I discovered something today in my audio that was maybe from this same conversation or around this time, and it's just so heartbreaking. I have to find a way to post that because I'm going to post it. I'll do that tomorrow, and I may just have to maybe link a transcript or something because it is really difficult to hear. But yeah, stay tuned for that tomorrow.